Hey everyone. Let me know where you're all tuning in from today. Love to see you jump in the chat. I see some of you are here already, so let me know where you're tuning in from, and we're going to have some fun talking about triads today. And also say hi to your moderator, Vienna Lorraine. Great to see you all. Hi, Günther. Nice to see you tuning in from Germany. So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about triads, which, as you know, I've talked about on a number of occasions. And you would have heard me playing some triads just then in my little opening improvisation for you. But yeah, triads to me are one of the most important parts of soloing. And for me, it's something that I find to always be an expanding topic, and I'd love to share some more with you about it today. So yeah, we're going to be talking specifically about 3 triad arpeggio approaches that you can take for soloing. Hey David, thanks so much for joining us as well. Everyone else, feel free to jump in the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from. So yeah, before we get started today though, I should say that we do have a weekend flash sale at bensguitarclub.com where you can get 20% off everything with the code NOV23, November 23, NOV23, and it's in the description down below and in the chat. You can check out the BGC bundle, which features all 11 of my guitar masterclasses, as well as the modern soloing bundle, how to practice bundle, or any of my single guitar masterclasses. You can get 20% off, and that code lasts for about another 24 hours. So if you're interested, make sure to check out the weekend flash sale. But today we're going to talk about triads a little bit more, and I'm going to talk about 3 approaches that I'd rather enjoy and you might enjoy as well. And if you have any questions, make sure you jump in the chat and let me know. Hey Carl, tuning in from Brisbane, great to see you. Oh, tuning in from London, I see, via London. Nice to see you. So we're going to start off today with a very, I suppose, simple approach, but depending upon how you utilize it, it's not necessarily simple. This is an approach of using primary triads. Now, whether or not you're familiar with primary triads, perhaps you are, perhaps you're not, it can still be a very useful thing to go over, and it's what I'd love to start off with today. So in the key of C major, which is what you predominantly heard me soloing through at the very beginning there, sort of a general C major improvisation, is our classic open C chord. In C major, our primary triads are chords 1, 4, and 5 in the key. C major, F major, and G major. You could certainly have also played them a little closer together down here. Now, you can probably think of countless pop songs from decades now which are based on those 3 triads, and perhaps not even just pop songs, lots of different types of music as well. And basically you can solo with just these 3 triads and it creates a very powerful sound. We can take a C major triad over 2 octaves, for example. Well, a bit more than 2 octaves if you like. And then we can go to the F major triad, and then to the G major triad, C major, F major, G major. And then we can add in some other stuff to make it a little more interesting, but certainly just going between those 3 triads, you will have heard many improvisers, especially in the realm of the guitar, utilizing just these 3 triads. Just these 3 triads for soloing, and I think it's a really powerful sound and quite a beautiful sound as well, very pure sound. And as you heard me doing just then, you can go through these inversions like root position, C major root position, F major second inversion, G major second inversion, and continue to cycle through the inversions just like that. So we definitely talk about this type of stuff a lot in my masterclass, How to Solo with Triads, at bensguitarclub.com. And if you've just tuned in right now, make sure to jump into the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you could give the video a like, that would be fantastic, so that we can push the video out to even more people out there on YouTube. So next, we're going to look at our second triadic soloing approach, and this goes beyond just the basic primary triads, but now soloing with all 7 diatonic triads in the key of C major. So, 7 diatonic triads in C major. That means C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and then C major again. Can even just start with that much. C major triad, D minor triad, E minor triad, F major triad, G major triad, A minor triad, B diminished triad, and back to a C major triad. Beautiful sound. And you can begin to throw in those triads into your improvised lines, just like so. Beautiful sound. Hey Danilo, thanks so much for tuning in from Brazil. Great to see you. So yeah, diatonic triads in C major, and playing them over a 2-octave range just like that, which again I discuss in How to Solo with Triads, which you can get 20% off with the code NOV23 for the rest of today. you can check that out going through these triads over, for example, a 2-octave range. Just beautiful sound. So, hey Wessel, great to see you. Thanks so much for tuning in. And finally, we're going to be talking about soloing with spread triads, which I have talked about sometime on a number of occasions in the past. But I think it's always fantastic to go over spread triads and make sure that you have a really good understanding of them. So, for example, we can take any of the triads that we've looked at so far in terms of diatonic triads in C major, and let's say start off with the primary triads that we looked at in the beginning. C major spread triad, 1, 5, and 3. F major spread triad, 1, 5, and 3. These are the degrees of the triad that have been reshuffled a bit to make them into spread triads. And then a G major triad, 1, 5, and 3. Now, that is a little awkward, as you can hear there. What if I were to play around with the inversions a little bit more of these triads? Now, when a spread triad is in an inversion, it's not that much different to just a regular triad in closed position. So a closed position triad sounds like this. C, E, G. Now, if we want to spread it, we're going to rearrange the notes from 1, 3, 5 to 1, 5, 3. And all of a sudden, it's a spread or open triad, which is very beautiful. Now, this is starting from the root note C. That means we're in root position purely for the fact that we're starting from the root note C. Next up, we're starting from E, which puts us in first inversion. A first inversion spread C major triad. Next up, we'll go up to G, starting from G. Starting from G, now that puts us in a second inversion C spread triad. Hey Jason, thanks so much for tuning in. Great to see you. So we can begin to play around with some of the inversions of these triads. Let's go back to our primary triads. And thus, utilizing those inversions, we can voice lead through these spread triads in a much smoother way that I think sounds way better. So there you go. And additionally, we can take these spread triads and utilize them for all of our 7 diatonic triads in a given key. Yes, Danilo, yeah, spread triads do sound really nice with a bit of overdrive, I agree. So 3 approaches to triadic soloing, which I find to be really very useful. So if you haven't already, make sure to give this video a like. And you can check out all of these triadic concepts in my masterclass, How to Solo with Triads. And I also touch upon triads in great depth in How to Practice Volume 2, both of which you can get at bensguitarclub.com as part of our flash sale this weekend. 20% off with the code NOV23. And that code lasts for about another 24 hours, so make sure to jump on it. Hey Luigi, thanks so much for tuning in. Now, let me know if you have any questions, and as I said, give the video a like so we can push it out to some more people. It's so fantastic to see all of you. It's always great to join you from all around the world here on these live streams. So let me know if you have any questions about triads or questions about anything in general. Triad improvisation for you there. Great question from Wessel here. How would you connect triads to each other in a tune, and how would you interweave the pentatonic scale? That's a great question. Well, if I'm playing through a standard tune or even just a 2-5-1, I would begin by, for example, playing triads just through the 2-5-1 or any set of chord changes in a tune. Let's say we have a 2-5-1 in C major. It's essential just to know how to connect the triad arpeggios. To make sure that you can do that, even coming from the lower register of the guitar, can sound very effective even just with basic triads. So I would just begin by connecting those triads. And additionally, I would begin to look at higher, rather, triads that can spell out not just the 1-3-5 of a chord, but also spell out the 3-5-7. So if D minor 7 has the notes D, F, A, and C, D, F, and A are the 1, 3, and 5. F, A, and C are the 3, 5, and 7. So that's an F major triad. That means an F major triad is going to work out over D minus 7. Over G7, we have the notes G, B, D, and F. 1, 3, 5, and then 3, 5, 7 is a B diminished triad. So that means I'd be going over D minor 7 and G7 from an F major triad to a B diminished triad. And I discuss a lot of that in How to Practice Volume 2, in Section 4 of How to Practice Volume 2, where we talk a lot about connecting those triad arpeggios over a triad and 7th chord arpeggios over 2-5-1 progressions. So that's how I would begin to do it. And yeah, I think that that would be a fantastic place to start with all of this type of material. So I hope that answers your question, Wessel. Oh, and with the pentatonic scale, well, I would begin to throw in the pentatonic scale as a scale that you could connect amongst those arpeggios as well. I connected up at the end there to an E minor pentatonic scale over C major. So just begin to throw it in there and try to connect it up. So yeah. Danilo, what was your question here? What about the other degrees 2, 3, and 6? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. The other degrees of the scale or degrees of a chord? I need some more clarification of your question, but it sounds like a good question. But yeah, I hope that that answers your previous question, Wessel, about the 2-5-1s. So yeah, I'd begin to connect those kinds of arpeggios. So yeah, let me know if you have any other questions or just about either triads or anything else, and then we'll call it a day. Triads over so what? Sure, well, so what is just really 2 chords. That would be a fantastic instance where we're just going over those 2 minor chords in So What by Miles Davis, where you can start utilizing triad pairs, like for example a D minor triad and an E minor triad. Because you can ultimately get this sort of hexatonic scale out of those 2 triads. Just from the D minor triad and the E minor triad, we can get that hexatonic scale that sounds a bit like the Dorian mode, but perhaps even a little more interesting. And I cover this in how to play triad pairs and hexatonic scales at bensguitarclub.com. I have a masterclass on those hexatonics and triad pairs, which you may have checked out. If not, you might find it useful. For me, a tune like So What is perfect to start pulling out those triad pairs. And it can get a little more interesting that way. So yeah, that's what I would do in terms of triads over So What by Miles Davis. Let's see. Hey, Prashant, any thoughts on the major and minor triads in the diminished scale? Well, I do have many thoughts on that, but we'd have to spend a whole other live stream on that because it's such a broad topic. But it's a great, great question. First thing I'd say is just be aware of all the minor thirds, and you'll be in a great place to start. But we'll get into that another time. So, great question. Hey Jason, it's amazing how triads share notes. They're all closely knitted together on the fretboard. They sure are. I absolutely agree. So, yeah, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope that this was useful to you. And thanks so much for your questions and jumping in the chat. You can get all of the triad approaches that we talked about today in some of my guitar masterclasses at bensguitarclub.com that discuss these approaches, how to solo with triads, how to play triad pairs and hexatonic scales, and some of it I discuss in How to Practice Volume 2. So I hope you find it to be useful, and you can get 20% off everything at bensguitarclub.com for about another 24 hours with the code NOV23, N-O-V-23. So if you're interested in checking out any of these topics, make sure to join me over at Ben's Guitar Club. And thank you everyone for joining in. I really appreciate it. It's always fantastic to see you. And yeah, don't miss that weekend flash sale. Thanks so much, Jason. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Wessel. Everyone who tuned in, Danilo, I really appreciate it. I will see you very soon. And as always, I really appreciate you, every one of you. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your weekend or a great week. I'll see you later.